Hi everyone, welcome to ANO Camera, pronounced Ano. On this channel, I test vintage lenses on my Sony A7 III. Many old lenses cannot normally be mounted on modern cameras, so I create custom 3D printed adapters to use them. My goal is to explore the character and performance of these lenses under controlled conditions. I hope these videos help you discover your next favorite lens. Alright, are you ready? Today, I'm going to introduce the lens we'll be testing. This time, I'm introducing the Konica C35. This camera is a very small rangefinder camera. I read on the internet that it was small enough to fit into your pocket, but I think people's pockets back then must have been much bigger. Because when we say pocket size today, we usually mean something much, much smaller. Anyway, it must have been incredibly compact for its time. The Konica C35 is equipped with a lens called the HEXANON. Apparently, this HEXANON lens had a very good reputation. People even used to say, there are no bad lenses made by Konica. As for operation, it has a program AE system that automatically chooses the aperture and shutter speed for you. So all you had to do was focus and press the shutter button. It was a camera that made photography incredibly easy. I think it was probably similar to taking pictures with an iPhone today. This camera was released in 1968. At that time, it was advertised as a serious camera that you could casually take with you on your travels. That's why it became known as the Journey Konica. The design is simple and very cute. If film were still easy to find, inexpensive, and there were plenty of places to develop it, this would definitely be a camera I'd want to use with film. I removed the lens from this camera and attached a part that I made with a 3D printer. Unfortunately, I lost the 3D data I made at that time. But for this lens, I think you could achieve something similar by making a hole in a Sony camera body cap and attaching the lens with a spacer of the appropriate height. This is something common with cameras from this era. The shutter blades and aperture blades are often not separated. Because of that, the shutter and aperture mechanism is placed between the camera body and the lens. For this lens, I completely gave up on recreating the aperture mechanism and decided to shoot only wide open. It was much easier to make that way. Actually, this was the very first lens conversion I ever made. So this time, all of the test shots are taken with the aperture wide open. Some people might think that doesn't make for a very useful test, but please forgive me. Alright, now let's talk about the shooting conditions. I'll shoot wide open, and if possible, I'll also test the lens at f/8. The camera settings will stay the same for every lens so we can compare them fairly. I made an original test chart for these lens tests. For me, I mainly want to see how well the center and the upper right area are resolved. Alright, let's start by shooting the center wide open. The center of the image is actually quite sharp. However, as you move away from the center, the image starts to become blurry, and the corners look almost as if the details are melting away. I don't know whether this is due to my shooting technique or simply the individual condition of this particular lens, but this is how it performs. I've tested several old lenses so far, and I think many of them have a similar character. I think this may be because old lenses did not use aspherical elements like modern lenses. I have the impression that old lenses were usually used stop down. So using this lens without any aperture mechanism at all may not actually be the best way to use it. Now, let's test its performance in backlight. When a light source appears near the edge of the frame, this lens creates a very unusual flare. Two lines appear, almost like the antennae of an insect. I wonder what it would look like when shooting directly toward the sun. If you ever have a chance to get a broken C35, I hope you'll try this experiment yourself. Alright, enough of the boring test shots. From here, let's switch subjects and take some more casual photos. But to make things useful for everyone watching, I'll continue shooting both wide open and at f/8 for comparison. This time, I'd like to explain a little about the photographs. When I took these pictures, I actually had something that acted like an aperture blade attached. I just made a hole in a piece of plastic. I don't know whether it was actually functioning properly, though. These photos were taken around my neighborhood and in Hakata, Fukuoka. In particular, the shrine photographs were taken at Kushida Shrine, a very famous shrine in Hakata. It is a popular place with many tourists, and local people affectionately call it Okushida-san. It has been worshipped for a long time as a shrine associated with prosperity in business and longevity. It is also famous as the central place where the offerings for the Hakata Gion Yamakasa Festival, one of Hakata's traditional summer events, are made.